would, of course, call myself a Pokémon fan, and a very passionate one at that. But more than being a Pokémon fan, I also call myself a monster taming fan. I think this is a very important thing that a lot of Pokémon fans forget about. If you're a fan of Final Fantasy, then you probably also enjoy RPGs. If you're a fan of Metroid, you're probably also a fan of Metroidvanias. Monster taming is a genre, and it's a really, really good one. In fact, if I had to decide, I'd say my top 2 genres of games would be Metroidvanias and monster taming. Now, why am I talking about all this? Well, I didn't actually realize how much I love monster taming as a genre until a few years ago. To me, it was always Pokémon, and I never dared much to venture outside of it. But I did, and it's one of the best choices I ever made. So yes, we all know Digimon, but it's important to acknowledge there's a whole bunch of really great monster taming games out there besides Pokémon and Digimon, some of them being really passionate indie projects. That's why I want to make this video briefly going over some other monster taming games that I absolutely love, and if there's any chance something you haven't heard of catches your attention, I really hope you check it out. And before we get into it, I want to make one thing clear. I am 100% against comparing and competing any of these games with the behemoth that is Pokémon. When a new monster taming game comes out, a lot of the time you'll see journalists religiously comparing it to Pokémon, and even calling it things like the new Pokémon or the Pokémon Killer, or even worse, a knockoff. This is how projects die. Nobody making a game is doing so with the intention of taking down Pokémon. If a new 2D platformer comes out, we aren't going around calling it the Mario Killer, and we shouldn't do so for monster taming games either. This is a genre of games, much like Mario is a platformer and Dragon Quest is an RPG. Pokémon just happens to be the biggest name in the monster taming genre, followed by Digimon, of course. Oftentimes, obsessively comparing a new game to Pokémon, whether you're doing it with good intention or not, does nothing but bring down the project. These games are all trying to make a unique name for themselves, so it's important to respect that. And so without further ado, here's a bunch of non-Pokémon monster taming games that I really enjoy. This monster wrangling series is by no means obscure, but it's still niche. Yokai Watch has seen a total blackout in the West ever since Level 5 shut down their localization department, leaving us with almost nothing new in English. And it's really sad to see because these games are fun. I've played Yokai Watch 1 and 2, and seen a handful of the movies as well. It excels in unique combat systems, amazing music, and perfectly wacky yokai full of unique personalities. You get to explore a bunch of big areas, search high and low for yokai, take on side quests, and fight enemy yokai in various yokai-related affairs. There's no shortage of things to do in these games. You can pick up any of the first 3 titles on Nintendo 3DS, or there's even a Japanese port of the first game on Switch you can get. I highly recommend checking them out and giving them some love, because Lord knows the poor fandom is suffering these days. If you're the kind of person who loves a good challenge in monster taming games, then Nexomon is definitely for you. I've gotten stuck in this game way more often than any others, and it has a really fun grind if that type of playstyle is up your alley. Of course, it's also full of colorful, engaging Nexomon designs to collect the world over and train. The graphics are absolutely stunning too, with a bright, beautiful world to explore. The game offers plenty of opportunities to break off from the storyline and explore on your own terms as well, making it a great game if you just want to run off on your own to find secrets and awesome creatures. One especially cool thing about Nexomon is the New Game Plus custom mode feature. This lets you modify the game in a bunch of ways, making it harder or even easier, but it also gives you the tools needed to run your own randomizer or Nuzlocke run without needing any sort of outside modification. It's a super thoughtful feature for those who love challenge runs. If any of this piques your interest, I highly recommend trying Nexomon out. It's on literally every system from Switch to PC to mobile devices. Monster Hunter Stories 2 is easily one of the best games I played that came out in 2021, and it's also the game that really kickstarted my interest in Monster Hunter as a whole. We all know Monster Hunter is about hunting down a monster over and over again until you have enough of its remains to make armor, but Stories takes a different approach. With a more stylized look and story-driven experience, you take on the role of a rider and befriend the monsters instead. You can seek out dens, take eggs, raise them, and battle with your favorite creatures. The battle system is unique and interesting, the music is wonderful, and the world of Monster Hunter is engaging as always. And you definitely don't need to be a Monster Hunter fan to enjoy it. If it interests you, there's a really meaty demo that I totally recommend trying out, both on Switch and PC. Like, it has a lot of content to go through, so it gives you a really good idea whether or not you want to buy the full game. This is one I've been playing a lot recently, as I just picked it up for Switch not too long ago. And it is a real treat. The graphics take me back to a simpler time, and the monster designs are impeccable. It has a unique typing system, and even a personality quiz at the start to determine the best starting monster for you. I will say this game has some darker themes and moments, but is absolutely welcome in a monster taming game, but also a heads up for those who aren't in the market for it. Monster Crown is fantastic on Switch, but is also available on PC, so I very much recommend picking it up on one of those places and supporting the game. Also, Monster Crown supports the choice of what pronouns you want your character to use, including the option to use they, them. Awesome. Were you expecting Final Fantasy on this list? I wouldn't, but it turns out Final Fantasy is home to a fantastic monster taming game of its own. Worlds of Final Fantasy allows you to battle and collect all of the series' iconic enemies, from Cactuar to Floating Eye to Magitech armor. You can even recruit the Final Fantasy protagonists over the course of the series to use as special attacks, including the original Warrior of Light, Lightning, Noctis, and Sora at one point, but apparently not anymore. I honestly have not beaten World of Final Fantasy yet, but I really need to put more time into it. Just writing this video is really making me want to dive back into it. Even the most gruesome Final Fantasy enemies are adorable in this game's style, and it makes me want to capture each and every one of them. This is mostly a game I'd recommend to people who like Final Fantasy and its creature designs, but if it looks fun to you, then you should check it out, because it really is. This is a name that many of you may be familiar with because I remember Temtem making a lot of news when it was first revealed. Temtem is special for its online aspect, allowing you to see fellow players on the map adventuring alongside you. You can battle and trade with others easily thanks to the MMO aspect. But even aside from that, Temtem is home to a colorful world, interesting story, and of course, amazing Temtem designs. All to boot with a unique typing chart and battle system, it's absolutely worth checking out if it piques your interest. Temtem is still early access, but there is plenty to enjoy nonetheless. And also worth mentioning, like Monster Crown, Temtem lets you choose your character's pronouns with the option to use they, them. We love to see it. And that's it! I've listed off a handful of monster taming games that I love and I really think you should check out. There are definitely so many other monster taming games out there in the genre that I haven't played, and if there's any you would all enjoy, then please let me know in the comments because I'm always looking for more to expand my palette. I love Pokémon, no doubt, but it's always good for you to try new things, and of course support indie devs where you can. And with that, thanks so much for watching and have a wonderful day.